Sorry for you.
I think Congressman Sestak's a big Phillies fan.
Well, I think he is as well. Why don't we ask him? Congressman Joe Sestak, thank you very much for joining us. He's currently challenging Arlen Specter in Pennsylvania's Democratic senatorial primary, and we appreciate having you on the show this morning.
And thanks for having me, especially after such a great night.
Did you go? Did you go?
No.
Too busy working, huh?
Yes.
All right. First of all, you're a former three-star Navy admiral who served as President Clinton's Director of Defense Policy, so you have a thing or two to say about Afghanistan. If you were advising the president, what would you tell him to do?
I was also on the ground in Afghanistan pretty early in that war. I headed the Navy's anti-terrorism unit before I was taken out for the retaliatory strikes in my carrier battle group. What I believe very strongly is that we cannot permit a safe haven for al-Qaeda to remain in Pakistan, and so I'm in support, and I would advise a measured increase in troops. Having been through General McChrystal's classified report upon the following conditions. One, the goal remains the extermination of al-Qaeda's safe haven, so they can't plan against us. Second, that there are clear benchmarks that can actually trigger an exit strategy to an alternative approach, which would be a containment strategy. And we must have this so that we can measure success or failure, which we haven't had in Iraq, for example. Third, that we have to recognize our goal in Afghanistan, which is really just a base to help close the door so the Taliban on the Pakistani side don't come across, is not a representative democracy. It really is one of leaving a region that's not hospitable when we depart to al-Qaeda.
Well, let me ask you something, though. Don't we need to accept there are some realities that perhaps we can't change there, and that there are potentially, I mean, I love Lawrence O'Donnell's view on this issue, which is he has no idea what the hell to do in Afghanistan because none of the options are perfect. And as we find a way forward, how important is it to be realistic and clear about the potential for failure on certain levels?
It's absolutely critical right now. If you remember, before we went into Afghanistan, we had said, Taliban, you kick out al-Qaeda, we won't come in. That's why the news report this morning is so important. It actually aligns itself more closely with the Crystal approach, which is forget the central government. They're so corrupt that this electoral process coming up shortly is almost irrelevant. We have to rely upon local warlords and chiefs, and remembering that of the 20,000 Taliban that are there, 70% in Afghanistan are there for a wage, not ideology. So buying off those there in a power way that they actually keep some form of stability is more important than thinking we can even begin to address the issues of literacy, which we wanted to do at the beginning, that would not make sure that Taliban, that we could have a governing society. We've got to be realistic about this.
Congressman Willie Geister, you talked a moment ago about stamping out the threat, not providing a safe haven. We thought we did that several years ago after September 11th. If we do that now and then we retreat, we come back home, why won't it flare up again in 5 years or 10 years and we'll have to go back? Won't there always be some form of a safe haven in Afghanistan?
But Willie, the key was that we didn't do it 5 years ago. When I went on that ground early on in the war, we were winning that conflict. Then we took our attention and our civil affairs forces, our psychological operations forces, our special operations forces, and put them in Iraq. We did not, despite repeated requests, even from the president ambassador there, was the three-star general at the time, for troops to retain a semblance of stability by which the power of our economy, diplomacy, rule of law could have taken root. No, we let, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said 2 years ago, we let Afghanistan spiral downward. This president's been dealt a weak hand. No, the leadership, at least 9 of the leadership, are still in that safe haven in Pakistan that welcomes them there. We have to eradicate that, but that's got to rely more on Pakistan and us working with them covertly.
Representative Sestak, let's talk about your race for the Senate seat in Pennsylvania. Recent polls have you within 12 points of Democratic incumbent Arlen Specter, but 47% undecided. Can you win against a candidate that the president has all but endorsed, and how do you get at least a good portion of that 47%?
Well, if I get on Morning Joe more often, they'll know about me. But the key here
That's
is,
available.
without a question, we have a gentleman which we should respect, Arlen. It's been in the GOP leadership for 45 years. But the fact of the matter is that he's 23% re-electability right now after spending $2 million. No, they're ready for a change. And as much as I respect this president, want to be his strongest ally, he did not achieve the White House through political calculation. He did it through audacity. And I think that's what Pennsylvanians frankly want. I do have to get more exposure, without a question. But they're looking for a credible alternative, and basically someone who's going to say, here's where I stand today and tomorrow. Accountability, not just responsibility.
Hey Congressman, off of those poll numbers, you have to be kind of encouraged. 47% undecided about Arlen Specter, who's 103 years old.
Oh, well, now, be nice to Arlen.
That's a very bad
He's been there a long time.
That's got to encourage you, that high and undecided, wouldn't it?
What it says is I've got so much room to run.
Right.
I mean, 4 months ago, I was 47 and 49 points down, and we know polls come and go. Look, this is mine to win, and I must. I must do it by literally the grassroots approach. There's no other way. But I do know this. The Pennsylvanians, very independent-minded, Slovaks like my father, who was an immigrant and came over, that they actually have lost faith in their government. How could they not, being placed in a savage recession? And then you bring about this war. There's no one who's really explaining it well to them. No, what they want is someone who hasn't grown up in Washington and actually will, even if they disagree with me, say, I believe in a measured increase in troops, but here's why. And then listen, but stay the course as far as what I believe in. That's going to prevail in the end.
All right, Representative Sestak, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Go Phillies.
Go Phillies.
Up next, market futures are up at the moment ahead of this morning's big GDP report. We'll get a check on business before the bell.